So Dereck Chisora has just entered the WBC top 10 rankings. This is a little bit of a surprise to me because although Chisora's on a 3-fight winning streak, 2 of those by KO, it hasn't exactly been against stellar opposition, has it? And even more surprising when you consider the fact that the rest of the WBC top 10 is really strong. I mean, you got guys like Dillian Whyte, Tyson Fury, Luis Ortiz, Povetkin, Kaunaki, Parker, Pulev, Rivas, and Hrgovic in there. Chisora's name, does it belong amongst those names? You let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. But since Chisora is now ranked in the top 10 of the WBC, and I'm assuming these rankings were made before he'd beaten David Price, so will the David Price win enhance his ranking? Will he stay the same, or will he be dropped out of the WBC top 10? Not sure. I have to wait and find out. But nonetheless, since he's now ranked in the WBC top 10, and this is something that will surprise you guys even more, but David Price was actually ranked in the WBA top 10 prior to his loss to Dereck Chisora. So maybe Chisora will inherit that WBA ranking. You know, it doesn't always necessarily work like that, but potentially it could in this case. So we have to ask the question, is Dereck Chisora actually going to challenge for a world heavyweight title again? Because, of course, we all know the previous time and the only time he's challenged for a world title was back in 2012 against Vitaly Klitschko. And although he lost that fight on a unanimous points decision over 12, he acquitted himself very well and did far better than 99.9% of people expected him to do. Most people thought Chisora was going to get blasted out early in that fight. I remember all the comments at the time when I was making my Dereck Chisora preview video for the Vitaly Klitschko fight. Most people thought he was getting blasted out early. They thought he would freeze. They thought, that's what they were saying. But he went in there and he gave Vitaly one of the toughest fights of Vitaly's career. I mean, I can't think of anybody who was a tougher WBC title defense for Vitaly Klitschko than Chisora. If you're talking about the Lennox Lewis fight, that wasn't a WBC title defense for Klitschko. I don't know. I think that might have been the toughest title defense he's had. The Corey Sanders fight was tough, but wasn't that for the vacant belt, or was the Kurt Johnson fight was for the vacant belt? Let me check here. Got Vitaly's record. No. Okay, the Sanders was for the vacant belt. So yeah, you could say that the Chisora fight was the toughest WBC title defense that Vitaly Klitschko had. And if you look at the guys who Klitschko was beating at the time, he was beating them with ease. Along came Chisora and he gave Vitaly a tough time. Vitaly had to work real hard for that victory. And at the end of the fight, when the final bell went, Vitaly was glad the fight was over. You guys go watch it again. You'll see for yourself. He was glad the fight was over. You could see in his body language he was glad. Whereas Chisora was pissed that it wasn't a 15-rounder. So Chisora has fought a who's who of the heavyweight division over the years, from Vitaly Klitschko, Tyson Fury twice, Dillian Whyte twice, Carlos Takam, Kubrat Pulev, you name it. He's fought, David Haye, the guy who is his manager now. He's fought so many top fighters over the years, lost to most of them, but most people feel like he was very unlucky not to get the decision against Helenius. Basically was robbed there. Some people even believe he was unlucky not to get the decision over Dillian Whyte first time around, and he was actually beating Whyte on points in the second fight before he ended up getting knocked out with a big left hook. And as I say, Takam probably his best win. So, Chisora is an interesting character. I've written Chisora off several times in the past. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I've written him off on this channel several times, but he keeps coming back, and picking up decent wins. There are some people who would even say that Dereck Chisora is better now than he's ever been before in his career. Now, I'm not sure whether he's better now than he's ever been before. It possibly could be an illusion. If we look at his past 3 fights, he's won in good fashion. I mean, yeah, the Senate Gashi fight was a bit boring because Gashi ran all night, but he's won all of those fights in a decisive fashion. But could that be an illusion? Could he just be looking good against those guys because they're so limited? I mean, if you look at what he was doing against David Price The head movement was there. He was out jabbing Price. He looked powerful, plenty of work rate. But when he's in there against the Joseph Parker, a guy who can move, or an Usyk, that's one of the guys they're targeting, will his jab be so effective? Will his head movement be able to evade their punches the way he was able to evade Price's shots for the most part? We'll see. But if we look at the WBC top 10 and put our manager's cap on for a second, let's step into the shoes of David Haye for a moment. Who would you have Dereck Chisora fight next? Since he's got a top 10 ranking, who are you going to pick out of the WBC top 10? I'm going to look at the other sanctioned and body rankings as well. But for now, let's start with the WBC. With the manager's hat on, I would probably go for the two oldest guys in the top 10 because it's a strong top 10. He's already lost to Dillian Whyte a couple times, already lost to Pulev, already lost to Fury, so I'd stay away from those fights for now. I'd go for one of the old guys. Ortiz is probably going to get knocked out by Wilder in the rematch. So I'd look at Ortiz. I'd look at Povetkin as well. We have to see whether he gets past Michael Hunter. But win or lose, those are the two guys I would target for Dereck Chisora from a manager's perspective. I would try and avoid the younger guys and the faster guys from a manager's point of view. But from a purely entertainment standpoint, I'd like to see Dereck Chisora against Rivas. I'd like to see him against Parker. I'd love to see him against Kaunaki. Like to see him against Hrgovic out of that top 10. And even Ortiz or Povetkin would be great entertainment fights. But with the manager's hat on, those are the two because they're old. And for anybody saying, Ortiz destroys Chisora, you're almost certainly a Deontay Wilder fanboy, in which case you don't really have any common sense in your brain because Dereck Chisora has fought much more dangerous fighters than Luis Ortiz in his career. Facts. That's just a fact. He's been in there with big punches before, no problem. I think Dereck Chisora's pressure would give old man Ortiz plenty of problems. His pressure, the head movement and all that kind of business. And depending on the nature of Ortiz's loss to Wilder, and he might not lose to Wilder, there's always a chance he springs an upset, but I'm fairly confident Wilder beats him. And if Wilder does beat him by stoppage again, Chisora might be able to defeat Luis Ortiz. Ortiz might be sufficiently prepped for Ortiz to go in there and do the coup de grace. So, yeah, and if we look at Ortiz, where was I going with this? If we look at Ortiz's record, let's be real, people. Yeah, he looks like a good fighter and he's got skills and all that, but what has he ever done in his career? He beat Bryant Jennings 4 or 5 years ago. There it is. And other than that, he's done absolutely nothing before the Jennings fight and nothing after the Jennings fight. And this is the guy you call the boogeyman of the division, the guy who's fought nobody other than Bryant Jennings 4 years ago. Like, give me a break. Alexander Povetkin is far more accomplished than Luis Ortiz, both amateur and pro. And they're both around the same age. Ortiz might actually be significantly older than Povetkin, but let's humor the quote-unquote official age they've given Ortiz and say he's around the same age as Povetkin. Povetkin was a world heavyweight champion. Povetkin, Olympic gold medalist. Povetkin has beaten, Takams of the world and much better fighters than Ortiz has ever beaten. Facts. So, just calm down with that Wilder fanboy nonsense that some of you guys like to peddle. So, yeah, those are the two guys I target for Chisora from a manager's perspective rather than an entertainment perspective. If we look at the other sanctioned bodies, I haven't seen enough of Trevor Bryan to really make an assessment on that, so I'm not going to say whether I target him as an opponent for Chisora if I was managing Del Boy. Price, of course, Chisora is just beat, so Chisora might inherit this spot. The Otto Wallin fight, I like that for Chisora because Wallin raised his profile with the Tyson Fury fight. And I've seen some people bizarrely say that if it was disgraceful for Fury to fight Wallin, then it's also disgraceful for Chisora to fight Wallin. How on earth does that work? Tyson Fury is an elite heavyweight. Dereck Chisora is not. Tyson Fury is unbeaten. Dereck Chisora's got 9 losses. Tyson Fury runs around calling himself not only the best heavyweight in the world, but the best heavyweight of this generation. Dereck Chisora don't do that. So, of course, you're going to have different standards for each guy because they're different level fighters. Tyson Fury is a higher level fighter than Dereck Chisora. So why on earth would you expect Dereck Chisora to have to face the same caliber of opposition as Fury? That doesn't make any sense. You try and match fighters with opponents on a similar level. And the gap between Chisora and Wallin is nowhere near as big as the gap between Fury and Wallin. So as far as I'm concerned, Chisora against Wallin is a very acceptable fight. And that's a fight I would definitely be looking at if I was managing Dereck Chisora as the Otto Wallin fight. Because it could get you a world ranking, could bring interest to the fight because of the fact that he managed to cut Tyson Fury and land more punches on him than most other opponents. So that's one I'd look at for Dereck Chisora. And although Wallin is a young guy, because he's not athletically gifted and because he is very limited, that's one of the young guys I would take a chance with in the top 10 for Dereck Chisora is that. But again, from an entertainment perspective, there's more entertaining fights out there potentially for Dereck Chisora in the WBA top 10 rankings. Usyk is a fight which David Haye seems to like for Del Boy. I personally don't like that fight for him. Maybe David Haye feels that Usyk isn't acclimatized to heavyweight yet, and maybe now's the time to get him before he does get acclimatized. Maybe that's the thinking. Or maybe David Haye is somebody who's just so obsessed with punching power, as he was as a fighter himself, that he can't see how Usyk is going to be effective against the big men without sufficient power in his punches to keep him off. Personally, I think that he will be able to not necessarily keep opponents off, but he'll just be able to outmaneuver them. Jimmy Young style. That's my personal view on Usyk, but that's a whole other story. Christopher Lovejoy, never heard of that guy before in my life. This is literally the first time I've ever even read or heard of that name, Christopher Lovejoy, so I can't comment on him. The IBF top 10, there's another name here. Again, I would stay away from Michael Hunter if I was Chisora, personally. He's already lost to Caballero, and although he may be able to beat him in a rematch, again, I'd stay away from him. He's a young guy. He's got a lot of energy. He can move well. Difficult style for Chisora. I'd stay away from that. Both from a manager's point of view and an entertainment point of view, I'd stay away from that. Again, Kalnaki from an entertainment point of view would be fantastic. Pulev's already beaten Chisora, so stay away from that. Gerald Washington. This is the fight right here. Out of all the guys in the IBF top 10, that's who Chisora should be targeting, if I've got my manager's hat on. He actually had Washington in for sparring in preparation for the Price fight. So, yeah, he's familiar with him, and I think he would. And Washington's older, older in age. He's up there. He must be 36 or something like that by now, 37 maybe. Chisora should go for him. Washington never had the biggest heart in the world, never have the biggest confidence, doesn't have incredible punch resistance or anything like that. Been stopped before by Kalnaki and Wilder. And the fact that he's got a top 10 ranking, yeah, I think Chisora would do very, very well to target Gerald Washington. And they could put that on at the O2 in London. Maybe even have Dereck Chisora headline for that one. So that's one I'd be looking at if I was Chisora's manager. And finally, the WBO. A couple names here that I would target for Chisora would be Junior Farr and Tyrone Spong. Now, they're both young guys. Actually, I'm not sure how old Spong is. He might be in his 30s, but young in boxing years. He hasn't had many boxing matches. He comes from kickboxing or MMA, I believe. And Junior Farr, who is actually fairly young, I think. But I'll target those guys because although they're young and they're energetic, they're very inexperienced when it comes to boxing. Or professional boxing, excuse me. Spong, inexperienced when it comes to boxing. Junior Farr, inexperienced when it comes to professional boxing. So they're a bit green. I would personally target those. If you're going to go for anybody in the WBO top 10, it's either one of those two that he should be targeting, in my view. Daniel Dubois, I think, is very talented. He's very dangerous. For me, if I was in Chisora's team, there's not enough money in the Dubois fight right now to want to take that risk. But from an entertainment standpoint, just as a fan, I would love to see Daniel Dubois versus Dereck Chisora next. I would love it. So I'm kind of hopping between putting the manager's hat on and putting the boxing fans hat on in this video. Okay, they're two different hats, and I want you guys to give me your opinions in the comment section below. From a manager's perspective, who do you think Chisora should fight next? And also from a fan perspective, who would you like to see him fight next, just for entertainment's sake? So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about all the points I've raised in this video. And I do have to finish up by talking about this WBC top 10 again, because it is such a strong top 10. It raises the issue of who is Deontay Wilder actually going to fight out of this top? What's the point in the WBC putting so many quality fighters in their top 10 if Wilder doesn't have to fight most of them? Like, what's the point? Because realistically, Wilder is going to fight Fury, maybe Ortiz, and perhaps Kaunaki because he's a PBC guy. But other than that, who's Wilder going to fight in that top 10? I mean, maybe if Povetkin looks absolutely shot to pieces, they might put Wilder in with him. But Parker, Pulev, Rivas, Hrgovic, you ain't going to see Wilder fight Hrgovic. Deontay Wilder, anytime soon anyway, Deontay Wilder has basically been given the status of a franchise champion in everything but name. Because he seems to have carte blanche when it comes to fighting whoever the hell he wants, fighting mandatories, whenever the hell he wants. Recycling Berminster Werner as a mandatory, that was a scandal in itself. Making Dylan White wait, best part of 4 years by the time he becomes mandatory, that's another scandal. I mean, Deontay Wilder has got all kinds of favoritism when it comes to the WBC. It's crazy. And if he were to beat Tyson Fury, you can almost certainly guarantee that Wilder will be made franchise champion. Officially, even if he's already kind of franchise unofficially. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Dereck Chisora, who should he fight next? Do you think that his past couple performances have been, have flattered him a little bit, the flattered to deceive, and that he actually hasn't improved as much as some people are saying he has? One area that I think Dereck Chisora has definitely improved is in his punching power. From time to time, I get people asking me, can you improve punching power? And my answer has always been, yes, you absolutely can improve punching power. Now, you can't turn Paulie Malignaggi into Tommy Hearns, right? You're not going to turn a feather-fisted guy into a devastating one-punch knockout artist. You're not going to do that, but you can turn a feather-fisted guy if you know how to train him the right way, if you know the right techniques and training methods to use. You can turn that feather-fisted guy into a guy with, moderate punching power. You can do it. This might sound a little counterintuitive or surprising to a lot of people, but in my experience over the years, training myself, helping to train other fighters, one of the things which can actually hurt punching power, please listen to this carefully, because I have successfully improved the punching power of several amateur fighters and a few professional fighters over the years who I've done little bits and pieces with, as well as my own punching power. Okay. And one of the things which is very popular in training, which can actually hurt punching power, which can actually decrease and reduce your punching power if you do too much of it, and that is pad work. Especially the way that most of these trainers do pad work, which is they concentrate on volume, getting off these fast shots and having a very high work rate every round. That, if you do too much of it, can actually reduce your punching power. Yes, it can. What will help your punching power develop is, and the reason that it reduces your punching power is because the pads don't offer much resistance. Okay. And you're also not punching through the target. You're not aiming to punch through the target with a lot of these coaches, the way they have you hitting the pads. A lot of the time you'll be throwing bent arm shots when you're hitting the pads as well, not getting full rotation and straightening out your arm completely so it's, your elbow's not bent. Yeah, too much pads can reduce your punching power. I'm telling you, too much emphasis on volume and fast, flashy combination, it can reduce your punching power if you do too much of that. If you do pads the right way, it can help your punching power, but very few trainers who I've seen do pads the right way. Well, not necessarily, let me not call it the right way, but the right way for punching power. Very few trainers do it the right way for power. But focusing on like a wall bag, a wall target, which is like a basically a fixed heavy bag, which is connected to the wall. If you hit that and throw punches with maximum power and hooks and all that kind of stuff over and over again for many, many sessions and then go back to hitting a regular bag, you'll notice an increase in punching power. Or even if you're just hitting an extremely heavy bag, a bag that weighs, let's say, 200 pounds plus, and you are throwing with maximum power, because you're not going to increase your punching power by throwing little pitty-patty shots or only punching at 50%. If you want to increase punching power, you have to be throwing with 100% power, as hard as you can possibly hit that bag, and have certain, many, many sessions where you're doing that. I'm not saying every session you need to be concentrating on hitting with 100% power, but you need to have more than your fair share of sessions every week where you are hitting that heavy bag as hard as you could possibly hit it for, at least 10 rounds. That's what you need to be doing. And you do things like that as well as shadow boxing, because shadow boxing helps with the muscle memory. It helps with you punching through the target rather than just at it. So again, a lot of the guys, when they get in the ring, a lot of fighters, even professionals, shadow boxing to them is just a way to warm up or maybe practice little footwork drills. But they don't throw realistic punches, a lot of these guys, when they're shadow boxing. If you see, for example, Mike Tyson, when he used to shadow box, he would throw real punches. He would throw punches shadow boxing as if he was trying to knock out an invisible opponent in front of him. He wasn't just pushing his arms out, as a little bit of a warm up to try some footwork drills. No, he was throwing real punches. If you do that, if you throw real punches while you're shadow boxing and work on the hip, the snap and the rotation in the hips and the correct punch mechanics, as I call it, following through, making sure your arm is locked out at the point when you're throwing a straight right hand or a straight left hand, and you do that repetitiously over and over again, imagining a target and then having your punch go through the target. You practice this repetitiously over and over again in training every single day, shadow boxing. You can even do that at home. You're going to see an increase in punching power. I've taught other people to do it. I've done it myself, but very few trainers seem to know how to best go about increasing a fighter's punching power. It's strange to me, but very few trainers seem to know how to do it. But it can be done. And sorry for the long-winded explanation. Dereck Chisora is testament to the fact that you can improve punching power. His technique has improved a lot. If you look at him now, the way he's throwing punches compared to how he was when he fought Sam Sexton, or even when he fought, in more recent years when he fought a guy like Edmund Gerber. Go look at his punch technique against Gerber and compare it to his punch technique now. He turns his shots over way better now, and he's hitting with a lot more force now than he was then. So that's a shining example there of how you can improve your punching power. But whether or not the other aspects of his game have significantly improved, as his head movement significantly improved, is it way better now than it was several years ago? Maybe not. Is his jab way better now than it was several years ago? So the power improvement and whatever head movement and whatever he's still got left and pressure and work rate he's still got left, it would be interesting to see him up against some of the better heavyweights out there, in the top 10. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Dereck Chisora, where should he go from here? Who do you think he could beat? Who would you target if you were managing him out of the top 10? Will he ever get a world heavyweight title shot again? And do I dare even ask the question, is it possible for him to win a world heavyweight title before he retires? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening, I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.